Hello everyone. I am putting this video together because just in case Bradley decides to slander my name or smear my character across any of his social media accounts, including Twitch, I decided to shed some light on my perspective of what happened during our contest raid attempt. And the reason I'm doing this at all is because I have now left Bradley the Bradster's community because of this very thing here right here that I'm going to describe and I suppose react to. This was his stream from the 22nd of July, which was a recovery stream for him after the contest mode had ended. And of course, everyone on the team was disappointed, including me, that we failed to get a contest clear. And the process of him, I'll begin by explaining this, the process of him choosing who would going to be on the team were a series of tryouts that he held over the course of about 3 weeks, about 1 month before the expansion released. And those were entertaining content for his viewers. I was entertained by being a part of them and being able to view other people trying out and seeing what strategies people were employing. And after every single one of those tryout attempts, every single person on the team would make a peer evaluation. This is something that Bradley uses from his military experience because it's something that's quite common among squads doing exercises to evaluate their team members in private. And that's the most important part. It's in private. Only people of a higher rank than people in the squad can read the peer evaluations. And he used these peer evals as ways of judging who were good fits for the potential day one team. And I was fortunate enough to end up being on that list, as well was Soup and Smile and a handful of other players like Vidark. And so one of the biggest points about peer evaluations is that they are private. And Bradley followed that rule very strictly over the course of the tryouts. He never shared the peer evaluations on stream with anybody. He would react to them while he was reading them, but that was all. He never shared the information about who said what about who. And that was very valuable because it maintained the integrity of the whole scenario. This breaks that integrity because he decided to do a live peer evaluation of the entire contest raid team without having informed any of us that he was doing it, and without having spoken to us at all about the contest experience to gain any of the perspectives that we could have given him. And that's evident from some of the things that he says. Quite a lot of the things that he says are evident that he was not aware of what was going on with his team members at all for major parts of that contest raid. And he drew conclusions based on incomplete information and then started to talk about us as if he had the ability to make a proper judgment, which he didn't. But all that aside, he should not be doing this live on stream at all unless we were present with him. If we were in the voice chat with him and we were able to talk all of our experiences out live on air in front of the community, that would have been fine because at least we would have been present and involved. He did this of his own volition, breaking his own rule about the integrity of peer evaluations, which he stated in the first place, and did this live in front of 200 people, talking about us as if mostly it was our fault that we didn't get a contest clear. Even if he never said those words, it's very much the picture that he paints. Now, I'm not going to go over every single one of his peer evaluations for each of the members of the team, because if they want to respond or if they feel like responding, they'll do that in their own way. I'm only going to focus on the ones that he talks about me specifically, because I'm not going to speak for any other man than myself. But before I begin doing that, I want to say this. Towards the end of Bradley's subathon, his 7-day subathon, when there were so many people gifting hundreds of subs and 50 subs and 20 subs and hundreds of dollar donations, Bradley was getting very emotional because it was an overwhelming experience for him. And it was a touching moment, a genuine moment for him and his community on the stream. And he, tears in his eyes, said that he shared experiences that he had about his mental health struggle after leaving the army and during the early stages of his content creation career, where he felt like he had no direction, no support, no idea what to do, and he felt lost, and he felt like he wanted to kill himself. And shortly thereafter, Astacross reacted to his video. The video went viral. They played together on stream, and that kickstarted the Destiny career for Bradley, and the rest is history. Bradley has built himself and his community up in a fantastic way ever since then. And I maintain that. Bradley's fantastic at building his community. He's got an amazing bunch of people in there with like very few bad apples present. A lot of good people in his community, and it's because Bradley's good at building that community. But at the very end of that emotional moment, he said, guys, if you ever need to talk to me, just reach out and we can talk, man to man. Bradley, after the stream ended, I reached out to you. I said, hey man, I'd like to talk, man to man. some things I like to say to you. And if you don't want to talk, that's fine. I can just type it out to you. You responded with a single syllable. You said, no. So either you were a liar, lazy, or a hypocrite. I don't think you're lazy, but you're either a liar or a hypocrite, because you've said to everybody often, reach out, speak if you need to. I wanted to reach out and speak to you man to man in private so that we could talk about this. And you knew that I wanted to talk about this, but you chose not to. That's on you.
Let me move to the next guy. The next guy will be Caden. So for Caden, a pro would be he had really good damage output when we did bosses. Specifically when we did Hydra, he had top damage. I think damn near every time, right above mine. I think if I hit, throw a number out there, if I hit 20K, he hit 23K. So he did really well damage-wise. So his DPS phases were pretty locked down.
All right, I'm going to stop it there in response to this. That's true. My damage phases were the most consistently high of everybody on the team, especially, like you said, on the Hydra boss, but also on the Hobgoblin boss, which were the only two bosses we attempted during contest, at least as a team. And on Hydra, this was because I was running a Peacekeeper's loadout with Finality's Augur. I would throw the turret up in the air to shoot down at the boss, and then I would use a SMG with rewind rounds and deconstruct to shoot the boss in the crit spot, and I did amazing amounts of damage, but I also built back my super very quickly. There was one point where I got four Thunder Crashes off in a single damage rotation, and it was because I knew how to build my loadout, and I knew how to execute my loadout for damage phases. And it's not just because I was doing a simple thing like sitting behind my Bolt Charge barricade with Thunderlord shooting at it over and over and over again with just mouse 1. I knew how to do these damage rotations because I'm actually fairly good at the game. I know what I'm doing, but I also know how to build these loadouts out to maximize that output and how to execute them. And the reason I do know all of that is because for the past 4 or 5 months, especially during the season of Episode Heresy, I was grinding endgame activities like crazy, like I've never done before. In preparation for Bradley's solo dungeon tournament, and also raid speedruns, raid Sherpas, all different activities that I was doing, often with his community members, either on stream or off stream. And it's because I was always making myself more efficient, making myself more optimal with these damage rotations, just getting better at using different things to maximize my output. So it wasn't just one specific thing that I knew how to do. There were multiple things that I knew how I could do and just maximize the output of those things. It just happened that my Peacekeeper loadout on Hydra was the best, because there were times where I would hit like 30 to 31k and the next highest would be 26k. That happened multiple times. Now, I'm not slamming the rest of the team. It was difficult to do damage, but I was consistently highest. On Hydra specifically. On the Hobgoblin, I wasn't as consistently high because I was on Prismatic Titan, whereas all the other Titans were on pure Arc Titan. So they had a greater damage output at base than I did, but I was still second or a close first on Hobgoblin boss for the majority of the times that we actually did full damage phases. And once again, it's because I knew what I was doing with damage phases. And I'm not saying that the others didn't. I just knew that I had mine completely locked down.
And that was super useful. A con for Caden is that he was very mentally unprepared.
That is the very first thing that really sparked my idea of actually leaving his community. Because that right there is not only wrong and disrespectful, it's just a stupid statement to make. Because it tells me he's utterly unaware of what actually happened during contest for the rest of his team, including and especially me, based on that statement. During our first run in the contest mode, we spent about 17 hours total. 12 of those were on Hobgoblin. Bradley called it quits for the team at the 17-hour mark. And it's understandable, people are tired, people need to rest. We'd already lost one person and made a substitution that was unfair to that person who had to sub in because they weren't prepared. Not their fault at all. Lopen, he did a great job for the fact that he wasn't prepared to be on that day one team. But Bradley called it quits for the team at the 17-hour mark. I wanted to keep going. But he ended the stream. Everybody went away to do whatever they needed to do to get some rest. And I stayed awake. I watched other people who had just about gotten clears because the world's first and second had just about been done. So I started watching their clears of these bosses and watched certain bits of things that they were doing that we weren't. And then I spoke to members of his community that were currently attempting contest and even normal now that it was available, and asked to join a normal mode clear so I could get some experience of the bosses and actually get them done. So I gained experience while everybody else was sleeping of what we should have been doing. And then I just watched streams, spoke to people for the next 2 or 3 hours, and then everybody else was waking up. As you guys were waking up, getting ready to go our second attempt off stream, I caught 20 minutes of shut-eye while you were all getting coffee and getting food. And then we made our second attempt of 4 hours. During that second attempt, I had more energy on comms than everybody else, especially Bradley. Bradley was very low in his register during that second attempt. He was very, oh man, this sucks. We're not getting clear. There's no way we're getting it clear. Oh no. Oh man, there's no aim assist on these eyes with my controller. He was like that constantly during the second attempt, which was off stream. So if anybody was mentally unprepared, it was him, not me. I was there. I was locked in all of the time. I was willing to put in the hours, because after we gave up the second time around, after another 4 hours of attempts, I stayed awake. I played with members of his community in contest attempts. When they gave up, I went and played with LFG members of the community, people who weren't even members of his server. And I continued to attempt contest encounters all the way up until about the 3 hour mark, 3 hours before contest ended. So I was absolutely 100% prepared and dedicated to getting a contest clear done. More than everybody else on the team, I'm willing to say, because I put those hours in. Everybody else stopped and left and gave up. I didn't. I didn't give up once. I wanted to keep going. You gave up. And I do believe, and you say this multiple times throughout this whole peer evaluation segment, you say we could have gotten it clear if we'd just done better, and I agree. And I'm not saying at all that I was perfect, and I'll get to that in a moment. But we absolutely could have gotten it clear. But too many people were mentally checking out. I was absolutely not checking out. So yeah, I was not mentally unprepared or tangibly unprepared. I was very prepared and very willing to keep going. This was absolutely false, what he just said.
He also probably had close to the worst survivability in the team. He also made a lot of careless mistakes. He not to blast him, but I'm just going to keep it real, man. He made so many that we had to stop the team to really call it out to get people to understand that we need to do better. I'll give you an example. Don't dunk 5, skip 5, go straight to 5.
Okay. Just to respond to this here, it's a fairly easy mistake to make to think that I had the worst survivability on the team, because I had the 3 worst mistakes on the team, and I owned up to them every single time. I owned up. He's about to say, I'll let it play actually.
Another thing he did was, when he died, he wanted to make excuses, and then he wanted to clip the his footage and see what happened.
All right. So I didn't make excuses about the fact that I had died. Never. I never once made an excuse. I said, oh, fuck, that was shit or dumb or whatever, and then I got on with it. But I never once made an excuse. I don't know why you think that I was making excuses. But at one point, I did say the boss sniped me through a wall, sniped me through full cover, where the boss's snipe mechanic, where he does the laser towards you, you need to break line of sight in order to stop that from happening. I would break line of sight to stop it from happening, and it would still hit me. And Bradley never experienced that, so he doesn't actually know what it was like to try and deal with that. So he would just call bullshit on it and say I was making an excuse. But it wasn't only me that it was happening to. It was happening to Vidark. It happened to Soup a couple of times, but he never called them out. He didn't say anything about them making an excuse when it happened. He just didn't have experience of it happening to him, so he didn't believe that it was possible. During normal mode attempts, actually, which he did on the 23rd of July, the day after this stream, people were saying, I got sniped through the wall. And he was like, yep, heard that a lot on contest. I was like, yeah, you did, because it's something that continues to happen in this encounter. because there's incredibly bad desync issues, something he just doesn't understand. So he assumes that it's making an excuse. And as for my survivability, the 3 worst deaths that I had and failures or wipes that I caused was, skip 5, and I went straight through 5. That was a complete brain fart moment. Just a stupid mistake. And I owned up to it immediately. I didn't make an excuse about it. Another one was where someone else, I was looking towards ads and I was jumping through a portal. Someone else was already jumping through that portal and called it out. I just didn't stop myself in time, and I went through after them, after it was already activated, and I died. And that caused a wipe. I owned up to that as well. Another time, I was trying to jump over a barrier, but my character just wouldn't go up. He was getting stuck on the slide animation or whatever. So instead of trying to go around like I should have, I continued to try and go up and up and up, and I ended up getting shot at by the ads and died. Stupid mistake. And I said, yeah, that was my bad. I fucked up there. Every single time I fucked up, I owned up to it, which I don't think you paid attention to. Evidently, you didn't pay attention to it, because I never made an excuse about my failures. And I'll give you another example where at one point there was a wipe that was caused. Smile yelled at Vidark over dunking the wrong call out or making the wrong call out. And Vidark clapped back at him. He says, "What the fuck are you talking about? I did exactly what you said." And I chimed in and said, No, it's me. I made the mistake. I dunked on the wrong one. I owned up to it, even though there was already a fight happening that would have alleviated the blame from me. I accepted the blame because it was me that made the mistake. Okay? And as for general survivability, I died about as much as everybody else in that regard. It's just that I had the most egregious failures. So it stands out to you in your mind that I was the worst for survivability. But in terms of general survivability, particularly on the Hobgoblin boss, I was doing the most amount of legwork. And I'll explain to you what I mean by this. Because Bradley, for the majority of the time on Hobgoblin, he was running the plate mechanic. So he would grab the plate buff, dunk what he needed to do, and then sit behind his bolt charge barricade in perfect cover and just shoot at all the ads. Because it's easy to do. And it was good because a lot of ads were dying. That's good. He was making a lot of ammo and he was killing a lot of ads. But the problem is, he was completely safe and not killing the major ads like the Wyverns and the Minotaurs. He didn't take care of the major threats within the arena, only the minor ones. So there was a lot of work left to do for the rest of the team to stay alive. Give you an example. Once we locked in on our rotations for clearing the ads, the entire team would kill all their ads at the beginning, kill the Hydra, rotate around, kill the Minotaurs, and dunk their little balls. Me and Smile on our own, so 2 of us, Smile would go over and debuff the second Hydra with Tractor Cannon. I would Thunder Crash it and kill it instantly. And then I would return, and the Wyverns were spawning. I would solo kill the Wyvern on my side, then pop Transcendence because I was on Prismatic Titan, and I would debuff both of the Wyverns on the left side of the arena to help the rest of you guys. 4 of you on the left side of the arena struggle to kill your Wyverns every single fucking time until I came over and debuffed them for you. Every single time. And I called out that I was doing it. I was like, okay, Hydra suspended. Every single time because I was throwing my Transcendence Grenade across the arena. So I was always exposed every single time I was doing that, but I was alleviating the work for everybody else dealing with those enemies. And it's evident you didn't even realize that was happening, despite the fact that I was calling out that I was doing it every fucking time. But because I was more exposed, I was taking more damage from everything. And Smile was doing a fantastic job. Smile is easily the strongest link on our team throughout that contest raid. And of course, he was doing the job of healing for everybody, as well as running the mechanics. So his mind was getting overloaded as well. But he did a great job. And then you said that I wanted to clip my recordings and see what happened, as if that's a bad thing. Like, let's see what he says here.
When that's wasted man hours. That's wasted time. That's wasted reps. I don't care how you died. I don't care what happened. I want you to fix it.
How can you make those 2 statements and not see the contradiction? I don't care how you died. Just fix how you died. Like what? I clipped my recording so that I could see how I died because it didn't make sense to me in the moment. And I watched it back and was like, okay, now I know what happened. So now I know what to avoid. Like, what do you want me to do? Magic up the fucking solution for not dying when I don't understand how I died in the first place? Watching back clips multiple times on people on teams that got contest clears, they would spend 5 to 10 minutes just watching a clip of their previous attempt to see what was going on that they failed to absorb when they were in the moment. That's a very common thing to do. And you're sitting here telling me that it's wasted man hours, wasted reps? What the fuck are you talking about? And I never wasted the team's time doing it. I clipped the recording as soon as that wipe happened, and then after the following wipe is when I actually watched it and paid attention to it. I never wasted the team's time by doing this, ever. And I evidently did not waste my energy because I had more energy than everybody, willing to stay in the race for as long as I did, without rest. You guys all did rest. I didn't.
And I want you to do better.
I wanted to do better too.
That was a huge con. A lot of people complained about damage phases and the boss health being elevated. My team barely made it to a second damage phase, bro. And I really fucking hate to admit that.
It's true.
Because they could not survive. And that was the problem. My team could not survive.
Okay. Bradley certainly had the least amount of deaths on the team. That's a pro for him. However, the reason he had is because he wasn't taking any risks. Now, it's not necessarily a good thing to be taking as many risks as you can. That's not what I'm saying. But for the majority of both bosses that we attempted, for Hydra, he was on ad clear. What did he do for ad clear? Sit behind a bolt charge barricade in complete safety and kill all the ads that were in front of him. That was it. And then when it came to damage phase, he hadn't had to run any mechanics. So damage phase was the only time when he had to interact with the eyes on the shield. He would complain about aim assist not working, taking his controller to the eyes. It's like, bro, aim your fucking thing on your own. How much of this do you want the game to do for you? I was hitting all of my eyes perfectly every single time, no issue. My shield was broken like that every time. And yet his was one of the slowest. And he kept complaining about the controller not giving him aim assist on the eyes. Like, aim your fucking controller better then. But yeah, his survivability was down to the fact that he wasn't taking any risks. There were often times on the Hydra boss where I was doing the secondary running mechanic. So me and Soup would go into the room on the right-hand side on Hydra. He would be the one rotating with the shield. I would just clear the ads so that he could stay alive. And then I would run back out and call the eyes in the middle, run back in. When I ran back out, oftentimes Bradley was on his own dealing with Minotaurs that were swarming towards him because Vadark was dead. Vadark was the ad clear during most of our early attempts on Hydra. Vadark was dying a lot to those Minotaurs that were spawning. Bradley didn't seem to notice that or call it out. But what it meant was I had to expend resources once I got to the middle, not just doing the mechanic, but also clearing some of the ads and helping out on that side with Bradley because he was getting swarmed. And so, once again, I don't think Bradley was even aware that this was happening. And a big reason why he wasn't aware of what was happening with the rest of his team on a macro level is because he was so distracted by his stream chat. Every single time I had his stream open on my second screen so that I was aware of what the chat was saying in case any information came through there. I was aware of what he was saying to us or saying to his chat about us whenever he muted his microphone, which he did a lot. There were a lot of times where Bradley muted his microphone and spoke to the stream chat about us as if we weren't there, bitching about us, instead of saying what he thought to us. So him saying, I'm not blasting the guy, I'm just keeping it real. He wasn't keeping it real. He's not keeping it real right here. He's being honest, but he's not being truthful. Those are two different things. He didn't even try to figure out the truth. He didn't ask any of us what our opinions were or what our thoughts were about the experiences. He just went into this and started ripping on all of us as if he had a full understanding of what happened, which he absolutely does not. Even now, having cleared the normal mode of the raid, he still doesn't. And that's evident from the stream Sherpa that he did on the 23rd with Ultron and some really good gamers like Zoo. They struggled through that raid for 6 hours on normal mode, throwing in multiple of the same ways that he calls us out for here. And yet, it was completely fine when all of them were doing it on normal mode? Like, where's the consistency here? Where's the realness here? It's not there, because he's failing to be genuine. He's failing to be as real as he says he is.
I feel like Caden, in that moment, felt like the contest mode was unfair to him because it was harder. Because he's done other contest modes and he done exceptionally well. So this one was a little harder. So instead of locking in and doing better, Caden decided to use excuses in that moment for himself.
I didn't make any excuses, man. I think at one moment I did bitch for about 3 minutes about how this was far more difficult than expected, and even how the best teams in the world with people like Snazzy Rock on them were struggling, and Salto Greppo, they were struggling, and all of that sort of stuff. And I described some of the accomplishments that Snazzy Rock had, and me and Smile had a conversation back and forth about that for about 3 or 4 minutes, talking about how he, even as the best player in the world, was struggling with this raid. I think that was the closest we ever came to properly complaining about how difficult the raid was. But we weren't making excuses. I wasn't making excuses. I may have bitched about it. It may have come across like I was complaining about it, and maybe I was. And I can own up to that and say, oh, yeah, okay, I probably should have just stopped bitching and kept playing. But like, other people were agreeing with me when I said those things. And then we got back into the next attempt and just kept going. So I think he's interpreting things in a certain way under the light entirely of the fact that we didn't get it clear. And it's fair enough to be upset about all of that. But what he's doing, especially here with me, is throwing me under the bus and saying that I was a major reason why the team failed, when it's just not true.
And it really hurt the team.
Really? It really hurt the team? Okay.
You weren't locked in.
I wasn't locked in. I was the most locked in of everybody, especially after Smile gave his death speech. And then he died immediately, ironically, which was pretty funny. But after that, that's when I started to lock in on the Hobgoblin encounter. Because, honestly, yeah, Smile yelling at everybody kind of forced everybody to lock in, including me. And that's when I started to do more of the legwork. I was killing the Hydra every time. I was killing 2 of the 3 Wyverns every time, and the second Hydra, and keeping more ads suppressed and dead than everybody else, except for you, Bradley, because you were the one sitting behind the bolt charge barricade just mowing them down. The easiest fucking thing in the world to do. Thinking that you're hot shit.
The last member of the team.
Okay, and he's going to get on to somebody else here. Here's my peer evaluation of that contest raid. The best player on the team overall was undoubtedly Smiling Game. Without a doubt, by a country mile, he was the best. He had the best comms, he had the best energy, apart from probably me, he had the best energy reserves to stay going. He was on Well Warlock for most of the time, so he was very consistently able to heal people and keep people alive, and also had his well available to do damage phases pretty much every time. He was locked in on his own mechanics phases more than anybody else, which was massively useful. Smiling Game was absolutely the MVP of all of our contest attempts. And I'm not saying this because I'm angry with Bradley. I'm saying this because this is what I believe. The weakest link on our team was Bradley. And a big part of that was because he was not mentally prepared. Before he started making all of these peer evaluations, he actually stated, I was very mentally prepared for this raid. He was not. He was not mentally prepared for this raid. He didn't do the legwork and the preparation that both me and Smile was asking him to do before Edge of Fate released. We were asking him, you need to get more comfortable on builds that are not Bolt Charge Titan. You need to understand build crafting. We can talk to you about it. And we did talk to him about it multiple times off stream while we were doing raid practices together. But none of that information stuck. He was just, okay, what's the simplest solution here? Bolt Charge Barricade, Thunderlord? Okay. Didn't even look at what his build crafting options were. As long as there were surge mods on for damage phases, he thought that was enough. But he didn't know how to build out the rest of the loadout at all, unless we told him what to do. Even though we were telling him for a month that he needed to get better at that, and we were willing to show him, and we did show him, but he just didn't absorb that information. And he wanted to do the things that were as simple as possible. He was distracted by his stream chat for the entire raid. The entire raid, he was distracted by his stream. And fair enough, he's the streamer on the team. Nobody else was. So he's the one that's going to be interacting with other people. But there were times mid-encounter, multiple times mid-encounter, where somebody would give a donation or a subscription, and he would mute his microphone and talk to them mid-encounter instead of running the fucking mechanics. And then he was distracted for 10 seconds, didn't know what was going on, and then he was late to a mechanic point, and just ended up kind of throwing the balance of the team, and everybody else was wondering, what's going on? And he didn't even own up to it at all. He never even owned up to it because he didn't believe he was making any mistakes. And then ironically enough, during his Sherpa run with Ultron and Zoo and all those guys, Bradley made a lot of careless mistakes on normal mode. He made a monumental amount of fuck ups. But did he own up to them? No, not once. He bitched about it to the rest of the team and said that they were throwing, which is kind of a hallmark of what's common with Bradley. If he's doing well, he thinks it's because he's great. If he's not doing well, it's because somebody else is failing him. So if anybody's making excuses, it's Bradley, because he was the weakest link on the team. And during our second attempt, where everybody else went to get some rest, and then we came back and attempted Hydra for 4 hours, his energy was very low. Like I said before, he was talking down low in his register about how everything was so difficult. He was complaining the entire time about how difficult it was and about how things just weren't working and that we weren't going to get a clear, and he couldn't believe how other people that he thought were worse than him were getting clears. And it's like, lock in then. You're not locked in. You're not prepared. He was not prepared. And look, I hope I don't have to air this. I hope I don't have to upload this video anywhere in response to anything that Bradley might say or do, because I even said to Bradley when I was telling him that I would leave the community, I'm not going to stir up drama because it's pointless and stupid. And then I said, I'm leaving and I wish you the best of luck and goodbye. And that's what I said. And I can actually show you a screenshot of that right here if you want. And if he decides to try and smear me across his socials or to his friends or on stream or whatever, I'll say all of this stuff, because he is either, like I said, a liar, a hypocrite, or lazy. He's not lazy, so he's either a liar or a hypocrite. Because I wanted to talk to him about this man to man without speaking to anybody else, slandering their names or airing their shit out in public when it didn't need to be. He decided to take it upon himself to talk about this on stream in front of 200 people, as if the rest of us didn't matter, and our opinions and our insights and our experiences didn't matter, and only his mattered. And it's unfair, it was disrespectful, and it's not true, and it's not right. And coming from a person like Bradley, who claims to care a lot about respect, he's spoken about respect a lot. I'm wary of people who talk about respect in the way that he does. Bradley made me less wary, because he actually earned my respect, because of the way he built up his community and the way he interacted with people, and the way he was generous with his time with people. But when I approached him privately and wanted to speak to him, he said one word: no. Shut me down immediately. Didn't want to speak to me. And that's either, like I said, hypocrisy or maybe cowardice. Maybe he just doesn't want to hear what I have to say, even though he says he does. So, yeah. He doesn't have my respect anymore, and it's because he deserves that. I don't hate him at all. I truly wish him the best of luck. I wish he has a great time at GCX. I wish he has a great time with whatever content he chooses to do in Destiny and any other games. I hope he has a good time with his community. There's a lot of great people in there, but I won't be a part of it because he does not have my respect anymore. And it's because of this. He deserves my disrespect. So that's it. I hope I shed some light on all of this nonsense, because I'm incredibly disappointed about not getting contest clear as well. Just like Bradley, just like everybody on the team. He's not the only one that failed. We all did. As a team, we all fucked up and failed. You don't get to assign blame to any of the rest of us. So that's it. Goodbye.